everybody, it is Jess and welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for being here today. I am going to be talking about all of the books that I read in January, and there are quite a few, so strap in, get yourself a cup of tea, and I hope you enjoy this video. I read quite a lot of really good books in January. The quality of the books that I read was just outstanding. I had a lot of 4-star reads. I had a couple of 5 stars. I had a few disappointing books, and I had a few DNFs, but mostly I had a really good reading month. So without further ado, we're going to jump straight into it, and I'm going to start with the DNFs. So I'm going to start with this one here, Dracula The Undead by Dave Stoker and Ian Holt. So this is classed as the official sequel to Dracula. You guys know how I feel about Dracula. I don't have to say any more than that. I've read quite a few different Dracula spin-offs and prequels and retellings and things like that over the last few years, and they've all been pretty good and pretty true to the original story. But this one, I don't know, I just really was not feeling this. I've still got my bookmark in the book, and so I got to page 198 before I DNF'd this, because I just couldn't deal with the chopping and changing of the story, and yeah, I just felt like it was just way too ridiculous to continue reading with it. Didn't enjoy it, don't recommend it. So there we go, that's all I'm going to say on that. But yeah, I'm very disappointed by this one. And then another DNF that I had is Send Nudes by Saber Sams. So I had an arc of this from NetGalley, and I think this book is out now. I think it came out in January, and so I kind of decided to read it on a whim, but also I wanted to try and get my review out before the book was released on NetGalley. This is a collection of short stories about womanhood and about different experiences that women have. It's something that a lot of women, if not all women, can relate to at some stage in their life. But the short stories, I don't even think they were short stories. I don't even think you can call them that. They were more like little snippets or like scenes of things that I didn't really get the point of them, if that makes sense. And I'm going to use this one as an example. The short story in this book called Send Nudes, which is what this book is named after. It was just a couple of paragraphs about this young woman who sends a nude to a guy online that she's been talking to, and that was it. There was no kind of discussion about the aftermath of that, whether it worked out for her or, whether she regretted it, if something terrible happened because of her sending the nude, or how the guy felt about it and what the guy did with it. There just wasn't any discussion. It was just her taking this picture, and that was it. And that was the point that I DNF'd this book, because the previous stories, they were alright, but again, they didn't really have anything to say. So yeah, I just couldn't carry on with this book, unfortunately. So let's get on to the books that I did finish in January, and there are 8 of them, so I'll try and keep these reviews as short and sweet as possible. We're going to start with my lowest rated book of the month and then work my way up to the highest rated, so we can end the video on a high. I had a 2-star read in January, and that was The Sanatorium by Sarah Pierce. I say 2 stars, it was more of a 2.5 stars, and I did do a reading vlog on this, so I will link that somewhere up there probably, so you can go and watch it if you want to. But this was just not what I thought it was going to be. And my main issue with this book is just the atmosphere and how lacking it is of any kind of intense or dark or foreboding atmosphere. It's set in Swiss Alps in this sanatorium that has now been renovated into a hotel. And this place is supposed to have a lot of creepy history, a lot of very violent history, disturbing history. And it was kind of touched upon, but for the most part, it was glossed over. And I felt that there could have been so much more done with this location and with the story. We are following this detective who goes on a vacation to this hotel for her brother's engagement party, and the characters in the story called Laurie, this detective's brother's fiance, goes missing. And it's all about trying to find out what has happened to her, and there's some other things going on that kind of all connect. There's this whole thing as well about a storm approaching, and it was talked about a little bit, but again, I felt like it could have been utilized a lot more, and it could have helped make the story feel a lot more intense and exciting. And yeah, I was really let down by it. One of my main things in thrillers that I love is just having a really good atmosphere, because it just kind of elevates the story. And even if the plot isn't that good, if you've got that atmosphere, just makes things seem so much more intense and realistic. And I don't know, I was really let down by this. And also the ending was just very far-fetched, and the motivations behind things just kind of made sense, but it just kind of felt a little bit forced as well. So I don't know. I know a lot of people have been very let down by this book, and I can totally understand why. So there we go. I'm kind of sad about it, but it is what it is. But that was the only 2-star book that I had in January. So we're going to move on to a 3-star read, and this is my only 3-star read of January, and that is Nightbitch by Rachel Yoder. So this has a very interesting concept about a woman. She is a mother. She is living with her husband, and they are looking after their young son. He's 2-3 years old. And one night, this mother discovers a patch of hair on the back of her neck, and then she believes that she is turning into a werewolf. I don't really know what I was expecting with this. It's a very weird little story, and I really liked it. It wasn't amazing, there weren't many amazing or interesting plot twists or anything like that, but I just loved how it was written. It was kind of like this stream of consciousness style of writing about this woman's day-to-day life and everything that she is going through and everything that she is thinking, and the struggles that she faces as a mother and her thoughts about other mothers and other people. And I just really, really enjoyed her characterization and her development, and this whole weird aspect of potentially being a werewolf and what that kind of does to her mind and her body. And yeah, I really liked this. I read it in 2 days. It was just a really fun little story. It's a mix of horror, a mix of literary, a mix of magical realism as well. It doesn't really kind of explain much about what is happening to her. It's kind of left to your imagination. You can kind of interpret it however you want. But it had a lot of very interesting things to say about being a woman and being a mother. And this book has just solidified my opinion on not wanting children even more, because it does not sound fun. So yeah, I really recommend this. It's not the best book in the world, but if you want something to kill an afternoon with, this one is a pretty good one to do that with. All right, so let's move on to some 4-star reads, and I have 4 of the beauties. So let's start with 2 books that I borrowed from the library. I don't have them now because I had to send them back, but one of those is The Last Wish by Andrzej Sapkowski. I work with a girl who is from Poland, and she told me the correct pronunciation of his name. So thank you to her for that. This is a Witcher short story collection, and it's considered the prequel to the Witcher series. And I really enjoyed this. There were, how many were there? It was like 5 or 6 short stories in this, following the Witcher on his adventures, and he comes across, characters that people are going to recognize in the later series. And I thought it was a really good introduction into the character of the Witcher, into his world, into the creatures that he faces. And it does a really good job of talking about his past without going into too much detail. You still kind of get the gist of it. Yeah, I had a great time reading these, and there were a lot of stories in this one that I recognised from the series as well, which is great. So I think if you're a fan of the series and you want to start reading the books, then this one is a good place to start, because like I said, it's a good introduction into that world and into the characters, and because you've already seen the characters and stories in the series, you're probably going to relate to it and recognize it a little bit better. So yeah, I really, really enjoyed this one, and I can't wait to get my hands on the next one, which I can't remember what it's called, but I know it's another short story collection. And then hopefully after that, I will start the proper full-on series. So another one that I got from the library that was also a 4-star read is 10 minutes and 38 seconds in This Strange World by Elif Shafak. This was a very much out of my comfort zone, and I wasn't really sure how I was going to feel about it, because it was just one of those books that I wouldn't normally go for. This was very surprising, and I really, really liked it. It was about this woman called Leila Tequila. When we first meet her, she has just been attacked and left for dead in a bin in an alleyway somewhere in Istanbul. And we're kind of reliving her memories. It's kind of like, that idea of when you're dying and you are seeing your life flash before your eyes, as they say. It's kind of that idea, and she is just kind of reliving memories that are important to her, that have shaped her as a person, and we are visiting, her friends that are important to her, and kind of discussing how they met. And yeah, I just really, really liked this. It was a very well done and well written story, and it was a very interesting way of talking about a character's life, and also just making it really interesting. And I learned a lot about Istanbul and Turkey in general, and I just loved the descriptions of the city and its people, the communities, and the things that people have to go through. And yeah, I did a lot of Googling while reading this book. So I really, really like this one. Definitely more than I thought I would. And I'm very keen to read more of Elif Shafak's books now. I know she's had one come out quite recently, which has been very well received. So if my library has that one, I might have to give that one a go. But yeah, really, really like this one. And the writing style was just beautiful. Top-notch writing. So we've got 2 non-fiction books now in my 4-star section of this video. We've got Notes on a Nervous Planet by Matt Haig. So I finally got round to reading this, and this is very similar to Reasons to Stay Alive, which I read last year. This is kind of like a part memoir, part self-help book, looking at how our lives are affected by things like the internet and the news and sleep, and social media and addiction, and just kind of talking about how you can manage those things, and why it's good to let go of those things every now and then. It wasn't like the best thing I've ever read, but it was relatable. Definitely some things in here that I need to try for myself, because I think it will benefit me. But yeah, it was just classic Matt Haig and very quick and easy read, and I really enjoyed it. So there we go. And then we have Crying in Hmat by Michelle Zauner. So this is a very popular memoir. Michelle Zauner is a musician. I've actually looked at her work online. She's in a band called Japanese Breakfast, and yeah, she has some very interesting songs out there, some very interesting pieces of music with some very interesting videos as well to accompany those. So I highly recommend going and having a look, because yeah, really liked them actually. But yeah, this was her memoir, and she is Asian American, and she's talking a lot about her relationship with her mother. Her mother was Korean, her father was American, and she talks a lot about her upbringing and her relationship with both of her parents, but in particular her mother, who sadly died from cancer in 2014. And Michelle talks a lot about how that affected her. And she also talks a lot about Korean culture and how it was important to her and to her mother, and their relationship with Korean food. And let me tell you, the discussions in this book about Korean food and the descriptions was just making my mouth water. I've been trying a lot of different foods as of late, and I have tried a few Korean recipes, and they've all been really nice. And this book just made me want to try even more of it. So yeah, this was a very interesting read, very eye-opening, very beautiful, very poignant as well. And I can tell that she put her heart and soul into this. I did feel the pacing kind of put me off a little bit sometimes. It kept swapping and changing to different timelines and topics and things, but overall, that's a very minor criticism. Please don't let that put you off. It was just, yeah, really thought-provoking, and I highly recommend it. So now we're going to talk about my 5-star books, and we have 2 of them. So I've finally finished this bad boy in January. Look at the size of it. I actually started this in 2021, at the end of it, the last week of 2021, and I was trying to get it finished before the new year, but let's face it, that was just a very ambitious thing for me to want to do. This was a reread, obviously, so it was always going to be 5 stars, because it was just incredible. I had such a great time revisiting these characters and revisiting this part of the story, and I actually enjoyed it more the second time round. I remember the first time I read this, I wasn't that into it. But yeah, I really liked it the second time round, and I made so many annotations and things about what was going on and what I thought of it. So yeah, really happy that I finally got around to this. And I'm kind of glad that I took my time with it, because I can remember a lot more of it now. And then lastly, we're going to talk about my favourite book of 2022 so far, my favourite book of January, which was the first book I read this year. I read this book for the Buzzwordathon, and that is What Lies Between Us by John Mars. John Mars has not disappointed me so far. I've not had a book by him that has been less than 4 stars. In fact, this is the 3rd book by him that I've rated 5 stars. And maybe I'm just easily pleased. I don't know, but I really liked this one a lot, and I read it so quickly. And this was not what I was expecting. I didn't really know too much of what it was about, and I'm really glad that I didn't, because it made the experience so much more enjoyable, and I had so much fun trying to figure out what was going on and how it was going to end. And the main premise of this book is about these two women who live in the same house, and one of them is being held captive by the other. And I could tell you, you know, what their relationships is to each other, but I'm not going to, because I don't really know what their relationship was. It is revealed pretty early on in the book, probably in like the first or second chapter. It is revealed. When it was revealed, I was very surprised, because it's not what I was expecting. So I'm not going to tell you either. But yeah, it's basically about these two women and their relationship with each other, and you're just kind of figuring out why one is being held captive by the other, and you're kind of trying to you're hoping that the other one is going to get out of this situation, and you're watching them struggle to do that. And yeah, this book was a whole lot of messed up, but I had a lot of fun with it. It's written very differently to the other John Marrs books that I've read. The other three that I've read were all had a cast of about 5 or 6 different characters. This one is just the two, and it's also written in first person, which I haven't seen John Marrs do before. So that was very interesting, but it worked really well. Again, like I said, he's not let me down, and I love this one so much. But anyway, guys, that's it. That's the end of my January wrap up. We had 8 books. Most of them were fantastic. There were a few that were a bit of a letdown, but you know, overall a solid start to the year, and I'm very excited to see what the next month brings me. Please let me know in the comments down below if you've read any of the books that I have talked about in today's video and what you thought of them, whether you agree with me or not. I always love to hear what you guys have to say. Please leave a cheeky thumbs up if you like this video, because it really helps out my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and you can hit the bell button so you will be notified every time I upload a video. And having said all of that, I will see you all in my next video very soon. Bye guys.